Hey, welcome to episode 1 of the Connor Larsen Show. I'm very excited you're here. I'm doing this solo podcast, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't really know. We'll see what the podcast evolves into. I think things are kind of their best when you just do them, and then you build on it from there. You don't get too caught up in what it's going to be. But my plan currently is I found that I go down rabbit holes. I get really interested in something and I want to learn about it. And then usually there's something else down the road. But I would like to, whatever I'm really into, I'm going to try to be a little more purposeful, really learn about it, try to make it interesting for you, and then give you an episode of, however long that's hopefully funny and kind of interesting. And that's the plan. So that's what we're going to do. Thanks for watching. I appreciate that. It's a new podcast, so all the normal stuff is super helpful. It's really big at the beginning. If you can like it, if you can subscribe it, if you can review it, wait till the end of the episode. You might be like, I didn't like that, so I'm not going to. But if you do, that's very helpful. And thank you. So, all right, this first episode, I want to do this episode. I'm calling it How I Got Treepilled, because that's what happened to me. I'm 33 years old, and in the last 2 to 3 years, I have just become so into the garden, I don't know. The garden makes it sound like just one thing, but just the whole, saying you're into nature is like, yeah, of course, everybody's into nature, but it's really starting to make me realize, I was 33, I was probably 30 before I got into anything about this. When I was 30, I would describe trees as like green or big. It used to drive me nuts when people would be like, yeah, just go to the whatever magnolia tree, and I'd be like, I don't know what that. But now I would love that. Now I'd be excited if someone described it. I'd be like, oh, okay, I know that one. And I'm having that thing happen to me where when people, when you talk to like a suburban dad when you're a kid, and he'll talk to you about like mowing the lawn, and you're like, I know this means a lot to you, but I'm 12, so that's what I'm becoming. I'm becoming the guy who I'll be talking to a comic. I can tell they don't care at all about the natural world. They live in New York. All they want to talk about is the subway. And I'll go, we're getting a lot of rain. I'm worried it's going to affect my strawberries. I can't help it. I just do it. I do it anyway. I talk about, and that's how you know you're really into something, where it's just coming up again and again. But so for this episode, I tried to really learn, what's going on in Tennessee, what's happening in Nashville, what are the cool things, and there's a ton of it. I didn't even realize I moved up here when I was 23, because I wanted to do stand-up comedy. But I grew up in Florida, and I'll be honest with you, I love Florida, but I didn't like it as far as I don't like the environment. I think it's too hot. It's oppressively hot 9 months of the year. There's 3 months where it's beautiful, but even then it's odd, right? Because you have Christmas, and there's no signs that it's Christmas. We used to go kayaking on Christmas, which is not, it's not a Christmas activity. If you drink eggnog in Florida because it's Christmas, that means you have a severe alcohol problem. That's not, because there's no seasonal, it's not like, holiday spirit. It's like, dude, it's 80 degrees and you're drinking boozy milk. You got to call somebody. Eggnog is not a Florida Christmas thing. That's what I think. But anyway, so I didn't think I liked it. And then I moved up here, and I was a new comic. So I lived in a duplex with 2 other guys, and, wasn't a nice part of town, and we didn't have a yard. So there's just no reason. I just didn't notice anything about the natural world. I mean, you see it, but you don't care. And then about 2 to 3 years ago, my buddy Dusty Slay took me he's got some property out east, and we went and planted some trees. And that was fun. I realized I didn't know anything about trees, and it was fun to kind of learn about it. I think since then, most of those trees that I planted have died, which, my bad, Dusty. But I had fun. And then I moved. I got married, and I moved, and suddenly we had a yard. Now we live outside of Nashville. We have a yard. And we got these cool neighbors, and they were old, and they were very cool, and they were always out gardening. And little by little, we started to get into it. And now, man, it's awesome. This is early April 2026 right now that I'm recording. And it's go time. This is kind of, I mean, you got to wait maybe, another week in case there's a late frost, but it's planting time. And I'm so excited. I never thought this would be such a big part of my life. But this is, I mean, all month I've been working on. Last year we watered everything by hand. It was a nightmare. And this year we set up drip irrigation. And that was so satisfying to figure it out, just doing it on my own. And then we got so many things that I tried to grow last year that didn't grow, that I'm now excited to grow. I like to plant things for my wife and see. I mean, you know, a lot of times I'm saying it's for her. And then she goes, what? But in my head, like I planted these tulips in the fall. You plant them in the fall, you let them get cold stratify over the winter, and then they bloom in the spring. And it's a great, like, it's like one of those Instagram videos where the guy's like, I did this for my wife. That's what I'm doing. I'm just not filming it yet, but I'm going to start because it was so fun. And the tulips were beautiful. They're gone now. They're all wilted and dead, which that's what you realize about tulips. They're kind of a tough investment because they go pretty quick. But anyway, I've been having so much fun doing that. So I wanted to do some research, kind of learn what's going on in Nashville. And Nashville's got a lot of cool stuff. So Tennessee is an interesting state for botany, you know, for plant stuff, because you got three kind of different zones. You got Memphis, which I've driven through Memphis a million times for comedy. Maybe the worst city to drive through in the whole country. But there's the land, you can tell it looks like Arkansas, it looks like Mississippi. It's this fertile delta stuff. It's like dark green, dark brown. And then you come to Nashville, and Nashville is its own thing. Nashville, I learned, has this little 60-mile radius of it's a limestone basin. So there's like a little bowl, and then this is all limestone, which is like a rock that water doesn't really seep through well, but it's just a whole different environment. And then you got East Tennessee, which everybody knows is like, that's, you know, when you think of Tennessee, you go like Dolly Parton, Great Smoky Mountains, all that stuff. And yeah, they rock. The great, listen, I'll tell you this, Europe loves diversity, right? But the Great Smoky Mountains have more types of trees than all of Europe combined, which I thought was great. I think that's a fun stat. And the Duck River in Tennessee, more diversity in terms of fish and all the other stuff, however they do diversity metrics in rivers. All of Europe too, which I thought was cool. I think that's a fun, you forget North America when people got here, this is like, they're like, what is going on out here? This is a wild place. So yeah, they're doing their own thing. And the Great Smoky Mountains, there's parts of that from like a climate zone standpoint, you get climate zones, they tell you kind of what you can grow there and all that. There's parts of the Great Smoky Mountains that are like the same climate zone as Canada. And then you got Memphis, which is like a real hot, it's like 8A or something. So it's been fun learning all that stuff. And I've gotten really into it as far as Nashville. And there's a few things that I think are awesome about Nashville. I think like we got a flower here. It only grows in Davidson, Wilson, and Rutherford County. And it's called the Tennessee coneflower. And it's this flower that it's one of two things to ever go on the federally extinct or federally endangered species list and then come off of it, like to make the comeback. So basically, they find this coneflower. It's a rare flower. I mean, coneflowers are everywhere, and they're pretty easy. They're dead easy to grow. We grew 1 million of them last year. But this one is different because it grows in cedar glades, which is that limestone environment I was talking about. And the petals point up. All the other coneflowers, they're bummers. They point down, but this one points up. So they found it, and they were like, I think this only grows here. It's endemic to Tennessee, which means it's the only place it grows. There's no backup. Like, if you kill this thing, we're done. Which is, I love that stuff. I don't know when I started geeking out about that, but that's so fun. When I find out something only grows one place, or you can grow this rare thing in your garden, I think that's so exciting. And I don't know why. It's not that it's useful. It's not that you're going to make money. It's just, I don't know. I just think it's good for your brain to be out in the garden and to have this thing. And it's this long time horizon investment. You know what I mean? You plant a maple tree and you go, dude, in 10 years, that's going to be beautiful, which is nothing people are doing in 2026 is like a 10-year investment. So it's fun to have stuff like that. But anyway, so they find this flower and they're like, damn, I think this is the only thing. I think it's the only one. And then this is how they would do it in a movie. This is like central casting, what happens to rare plants. They find this flower, and then a developer comes in and puts a mobile home on top of it and like destroys it. And so for like a few years, they think it's gone. They go, oh, well, no more Tennessee coneflower. And then they find a few more, and they're like, all right, no more mobile homes. So they really go all out. They plant up, they plant 100,000 of them, and they do prescribed burns in areas to make a cedar glade so that they'll have more habitat. And 30, 40 years go by, and this is the only. Now it's safe. It's got we got a bunch of them, and it's the only plant. There's like one other one that's come off the federally endangered species list. So I think that's great. I think that's a fun story. A thing was almost gone, and they brought it all the way back, and I really like that. And then I want to talk about the tulip poplar tree, which I got one in my backyard, and that might have been the way that I got into it, because the tulip poplar tree is it's a cool giant tree. They grow real big. They're the tallest softwood tree, I believe, or maybe they're the tallest hardwood tree. Tree stuff is insane because it's not like a lot of softwood trees are harder than hardwood trees, but it's just about like the leaves, and it's one of these weird designations I don't understand. But tulip poplar trees, they grow like 200 feet. It's the state tree of Tennessee, and we got one in our backyard, and I love it. It's such a great. Just when you see something that big, ours is probably, I don't know, it's a lot taller than the house. It's like 70 feet, 60 feet. It's a big one, but it's not, there's like 200 feet ones. But when you see something like that, it just makes you go, wow, this has been around, through a lot of storms, through tornadoes. It just feels substantial and good. And I really love that tree. And I think it's fun that it's the biggest tree we got. It's got these little spirals that fall off of it when it's blooming. These little they come down, and you go, oh, that's what that is. So that's a fun one. The other stuff I want to grow that we got that's just Tennessee is there's a thing called the pawpaw tree, which is, my buddy Dusty's talked about this, but I'm trying to grow a pawpaw tree because it's a fruit bearing tree. They make pawpaw fruit. Pawpaw fruit sounds like a comedian I worked with on the road. That sounds like his name. But so it's this thing, and it's like you never see it in grocery stores, right? You never had pawpaw fruit, and they say it was George Washington's favorite dessert. They say it tastes like a mango and a banana crossed together, and it's like custardy. And the reason you don't see it in grocery stores is it doesn't ship well. You can't ship it. It's got they say if you breathe on it, it bruises, and they say it's got a 2 or 3 day shelf life, which I love. I think that's such a fun. That's one of the things I realized growing food is like, you go to the grocery store and you go like, this is food. They have all the food. And then you stop going, you start like growing your own food, and you realize this is like a tiny percentage of the food. There's so much food, and all this stuff at the grocery store is there because it doesn't spoil fast. They can ship it. They can treat it like your bag on Southwest. They can just throw crates of it around, and it doesn't get diseases. So they've done all these things to make it good to sell at a grocery store, but it doesn't mean that it's the best tasting version or the most interesting, any of that stuff. So you start to realize like there's a whole world of food that if you want to get it, you kind of got to go outside of the grocery store. You got to go to different streams, and it's very fun to grow something yourself that tastes good. That feels like, we grew a few things last year where I was like, this is so much better. Like strawberries are a great example. This is so much better than the grocery store ones. Because the grocery store ones, they cut them when they're not ripe, and they go, well, in 2 weeks that will taste bad, so let's ship it. That's not what you want to pick it that day and eat it that day. So it's very fun, and it just kind of changed my thinking on all the things that are out there. So pawpaw's out there. I've never had one. They say George Washington's favorite dessert. I would like to know what that's like. But the pawpaw tree, it's wild. I mean, they grow here in Tennessee. They used to be super popular, I guess. And they grow these fruits, and they're just, I don't know, mango, banana. To me, I think that's a very fun. I would love to like take that to parties. I know that would make me seem insane, but I would love to take it to parties. It's the largest Native American fruit. Like I'm not saying it's a Cherokee or whatever. I'm saying native to America. It's the largest one we got. The state butterfly needs pawpaw trees. I like that. I didn't even know we had a state butterfly, but apparently we do. And people used to call it the poor man's banana That's one of the things I like. That's the thing I read that I liked. The poor man's, because you would think the poor man's banana would be banana, right? Bananas cost roughly 10 cents for 1,000 of them. They're one of the few things where I'm like, this will always be cheap. When I go on the road and I'm going to Publix to get food, I grab bananas because they're dirt cheap. But apparently the pawpaw, it was, I mean, you can get a real deal on it. So I'm going to try to grow those. I'm going to try to grow ground cherries, which are apparently not cherries, but they're a lot of plant names are just, people just go like, this kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? But they're not, they're apparently related to tomatillos. And they taste in between, I think, a cucumber and a tomato or something like that. But you can grow them right here and they just drop on the ground. They're kind of a risky, before they're ripe, they're poisonous. And then once they're ripe, they taste good, which it's such a great, you really got to be certain because you go, this either taste kind of good or I'll be in huge trouble. But I like that. I wanted to grow that. What are the other things I was looking at growing? Okay, I'm looking at, there's a bunch of trees that I thought were cool, like the yellowwood tree, which is, the yellowwood tree is this funky tree that some Chinese diplomat gave to the States, which is a weird, I love the idea of giving away plants because they can be like a huge problem. You know what I mean? Like kudzu and all that stuff. You give it to somebody and then it takes off and takes over the whole country. I'm going to do an episode on invasive species because I think that was another thing I found was fascinating. There's all these trees that are, out competing, and it's like the Everglades in Florida where they're getting wrecked because some guy brought like 10 pythons there 50 years ago, and the pythons were like, this is perfect, and now they just crushing it. But the yellowwood tree, some guy gave a tree to the United States. They planted it. It grows here pretty well. It's like in this type of tree that all the rest of them are only in China or Japan. This is the only one outside of it. So it's kind of, it's in its own family by itself over here. And it only blooms every 2 to 3 years, which I think that's I love when plants do weird stuff like that, where they're doing their own thing. And it's kind of a funky looking, it like bends and stuff. It doesn't go straight. So people just didn't cut it down because they were like, well, what? That's going to be a hassle to mill it into usable boards. So you just have this tree that kind of a funky tree, probably shouldn't be on this continent. And then it's got yellow wood. That's why, hence the name. And it blooms every 2 to 3 years. And I want to see if I can grow one of those. I think that would be fun. And I also, listen, if you're watching this and you know something about any of these plants, let me know. I have a fully, it's always evolving, my plan for the garden. It's fully permeable. It could be whatever. I don't really have a good plan. I'm just trying stuff. And then I do it and I go, oh, that didn't work well. Or I go, oh, that worked pretty good. And then I just keep going. So I like doing that. I was learning this about Tennessee. We have 3 state flowers. I didn't know that. We have 3 because we can't agree on it, I guess. That's another thing I love about gardening. A lot of opinions. People get fired up. There's always garden clubs, fighting with each other. I think that's kind of fun. To be in a garden club and then fighting seems like you've lost the forest for the trees. You're sort of, you go, I'm going to join this garden club. I want to have a relaxing life. And then you go, that guy said the iris is the state flower? No, I can't take that. I need to start a campaign. I got to talk to the mayor. Like there's always, that's like comedy or anything else. There's always drama in places where you can't imagine there could be drama. Like I remember when I found out that different improv groups hated each other. And you were like, no one knows you're different. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody thinks that you guys aren't identical. And yet you're like, what they do, the way they just mess around with no plan. I can't stand that. Only the way we mess around with no plan is, but that happens in here. I mean, I've been reading about all this stuff and the amount of controversy and problems because someone wanted to do whatever. They wanted to name, there was like a thing that the Tennessee legislature was like, this state flower is the iris, but this state like grown flower, like non-native, is the passion flower. And they spent real time There was like a bill about schools behind it, I bet, just being like, could we check this out? And they're like, hold on, we got to figure this out. Also found out this passion flower refers to, is not like passion fruit, where it's like, it's not because there's passion, it's passion of the Christ. That's what there's the 10 leaves or the 10 apostles and the stem. I mean, they have some whole metaphor worked out, but I think that's the other thing too about plant names. Wild stories. They always have them. And half the ones you're like, I don't really want to call it that. You know what I mean? They'll be like, it's the misshapen bladder root. And you're like, all right. Can't you just call it like the purple thing, But yeah, those are some things I want to grow in my garden. I want to grow a yellowwood tree. I want to grow a pawpaw tree. I'd like to grow some oaks. My buddy Dusty has some acorns, and he's given me some trees that I planted. I hope they're going to grow. But I'm having a lot of fun. I built my wife two raised garden beds and then a trellis. We got the Instagram look. It's got the little twinkly lights on it. And this year we're going to grow a bunch of tomatoes there. We're going to grow a bunch of bush beans. I started growing, last year I ordered a bunch of seeds from Amazon. And I was like, well, this is great. This is, again, it's the same thing with the grocery store. You go, Amazon has all the seeds. And then you zoom out and you realize Amazon only sort of has the brands that want to work with Amazon and sort of, I don't know, the straight down the middle stuff, right? They got like a few big brands and they can ship it to you in a day and all that. But there's other ones out there. There's like little funky, weird independent shops, and they have all sorts of crazy seeds. And I got really into that. I ordered from a company called Zanies or Organic or Heirloom Seeds or something. But Johnny Seeds is great. And I didn't realize this till this year. They have sort of, like, how sneakers drop? They have seed drops. They'll be like this. We got a new type of zinnia. We got a new type of iris. And it's fun. I think it's so cool to be able to get something and be like, oh, this like plant hasn't existed a lot. This isn't a thing people have seen everywhere. And you start to learn about how they grow, and you got to, you put them in seed trays and you keep them warm, and then you transplant them. And when they don't work, you're bummed. And when they work, you're like, you feel incredibly, I at least feel, I go like, I can't believe I did this. I took this seed this big, grew a 10-foot tomato plant that, grew me whatever it is, 15, 20 tomatoes. And it's not like, sometimes it's not even that you're getting a good deal. There's a lot of times I go, I spent, whatever, $10 on soil in an hour doing this, and the seeds were $4. I go, I probably could have just bought more tomatoes than I got, but that's not the point. The point is just it's such a fun experience. It's such a, it just has significance because it's the thing you're doing. It's like when people go, I love my family. And it's like, well, yeah, and it's not, you should. I love my family too. It's not because they're all superheroes or they're all amazing. It's because they're my specific family, right? Like that's how it works. It's because it's its relationship to you that makes it special. So I really like doing that. And this year, man, it's early April right now, and you can tell I feel like we're going to grow a lot of stuff. And I bet you I'll make an episode in June where I go, a lot of that stuff did not work. But right now, anything's possible. It's like the first day of school. I go, I could grow anything. I'm so excited to get out there and do it. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, a lot of stuff, I think the irrigation's really going to help. I think we're planting more stuff that will go here. You know what I mean? A lot of stuff they go, you could try to grow it here, and then it dies. And it's so, when a plant dies, it's like, it's depressing because you just watch it and you go, there's just nothing I could do. There's nothing. And you try stuff and it makes it worse. It's just a bummer to watch. But yeah, I'm really excited to do it. We actually the neighbor I had who got us into gardening, they were both pretty old, and they both passed on last year, which was very sad. And now we see their garden, and it's just not being tended the way it was. The new people, they haven't moved in yet, but they don't seem like they're going to be as into the garden. We watched them, take all this stuff out of the garden. And I think it was the family. And I think that's very cool. That's a fun thing too about gardening. You can take somebody's plant, you can take if you live in similar climates, you can take your family members. Like I had a buddy whose mom gave him this giant elephant ear plant. And that's fun because now that's like a living memory. I think my friend Dusty's talked about taking, his dad had these really old, like 50, 60 years old plum trees, and he transplanted them to Nashville and kept them going. And that, I just love that. I think that's such a cool part of it. So they gave us some marigold seeds, and we planted those, and I'm hoping those will take. I'm hoping we can grow my neighbor's stuff. And then, you can, the end of the season, you harvest the marigold seeds again, and you keep it going. And I think that's such a fun, I think especially now where everything is so disconnected and weird, having this thing that takes time and is tangible and is, it's not, don't get me wrong. What I'm doing right now is you're trying to turn gardening into content or whatever. But that's not really why I'm doing it. I'm more trying to reverse engineer. This is what I already like doing. Let me just talk about it. And I'm sure there's other people who like doing it too. Which that's the other thing. You realize, I never realized how many people were into gardening. When I wasn't into it, you just don't even notice it. It's like any group you're not a part of, you don't even notice it. Like someone goes, oh, right now it's the so-and-so festival. And you're like, I never heard of that. And they go, well, it's the biggest, busiest time of year in Nashville for that. And you go, well, didn't know. It's actually coming up right now. It's Nashville Comedy Festival in a week or two, which is always a huge thing for us comics. And it's always really well done. And they got great shows. And it's very fun. But, until I lived, with the first 2 years I lived here, I don't think I even knew, because I was not a good enough comic to be a part of it in any way. So, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun in the garden. I can't wait. I'm going to make some videos, and I'm going to try to plant all those things I talked about. I'm going to try to get some Tennessee coneflower. I don't know if I can do it because my yard is not a cedar glade. You know what I mean? That's a specific environment, but I'll try. I'm going to try to grow a pawpaw tree. I'm going to try to grow some ground cherries. I don't really know where I can get a yellowwood tree. I have a buddy who's he owns a nursery. And shout out Needham's Nursery. They've been incredibly cool with me. But I always try to ask him. I'll be like, do you have this? Do you have this plant? And it's funny because I'm a hobbyist. I really like this stuff. It's fun and I like nerding out about it. But this is his day to day. So a lot of times I'll be like, what about this rare plant? And he's like, I don't know, dude. How much stuff I got going on? I'm like, all right, that's a good point. Sorry, that's for being outside. I'm getting gardener's lung. No, man, I'm very excited, and I will throw out some videos of what we grow, and I hope this stuff goes well, and it'll be kind of fun to see what works and what doesn't. And I just think it's if you live in the Nashville area and you got some sort of idea of something, I think I should grow, send it in. That's the other thing too. I like the community aspects of it. I like people have given me seeds and trees, and it's very fun to try to make that work. And, we're trying to propagate some azaleas from cuttings, and that's so cool to me, the idea you're cloning your own plants, and, it feels like you're getting a deal because you're getting a free plant. So I had a lot of fun with that. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm going to do a lot of gardening talk. I'm going to deep dive into different topics, and, hopefully if you're into this stuff, you find it to be an interesting, good episode. And either way, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. We're going to cover all sorts of different topics. In the next episode, I'm talking about the novel Snow Crash, and the one after that, I'm talking about March Madness tournament. So it's going to be all over the map. But I hope you like it. And if you do, please review it, subscribe, tune in, all that stuff, and hopefully it'll turn into something really cool. So, all right, that was episode 1. I hope you liked it. I hope you get tree-pilled in your own life. Okay, thank you.